We're gonna talk about bike body separation today. So people have been writing in and saying like, well, a couple things. People have been kind of wondering how to get bike body separation. We get a lot of comments of people saying that they're doing the opposite of bike body separation, that they're getting the frame against their outside thigh instead of their inside thigh, and they're wondering how to get the bike to lean down. And there are a lot of people teaching to push the bike down with the arms. And so we're going to talk about how we can get away from having to push with the arms just by using our timing correctly. Again, this theme kind of like is pervasive in riding, where if our technique pieces are correct and our timing is correct, then we don't have to use a lot of strength or a lot of like conscious thought to make things happen. And so along that line, we're going to get into bike body separation without the use of the arms. Okay. So rather than coming into the turn and thinking about creating bike body separation by pushing the bicycle over, we're going to be getting it using timing. Now, just to kind of take a step back and talk about what bike body separation is, when we're in an off-camber turn like we're going to be in here, meaning the outside of the turn is lower than the inside of the turn, we need to get pressure in hill. So we're going to be creating some hip rotation to get our pressure to drive in hill here. And that rotation of the outside hip away from the bicycle is going to be what leaves the bicycle leaning against the inside thigh as opposed to the outside thigh. Okay, so this is where bike body separation comes from. It actually comes from the movement of the body around the bicycle, but it also comes from the timing of the angle of lean of the body and the bicycle. So we're going to get into that now. All right, well, I think we're probably ready to start riding. So we're going to just work on just rolling into here with level feet. And then from there, we're going to be working. We always want to start leaning into the turn before we start our footwork. So like we're initiating the turn with a little bit of bike and body lean, and then we're rolling into our footwork. So what this is going to allow us to do is, as my bike and my body start to lean, just as my body starts to lean, I'm going to activate my footwork, and that's going to allow that outside hip to come up and around, and for me to feel my saddle on my inside thigh. So I've already leaned the bike over a little bit, and as I kick off my footwork, I'm already going to be in a position where now the bike is going to stay on the angle it's on, my right hip's going to come up and around, and that's actually what makes it look like there's bike body separation, which there is, but it's not a function of pushing the bike away. Now, a couple things that would force me to push with my hands, one would be if my feet are level. Like if my feet are level and I'm coming through an off-camber turn like this, I'm going to have to push the bike down. I really need that outside foot pressure and that outside hip rotation to help create that bike body separation. The other thing that can, on the other end of the spectrum, that can throw me off is making too much footwork too soon. So if I come into here and I'm really committed to my right leg, which I want to be by mid-turn, but I don't want to be at the beginning of the turn. If I'm standing on my right leg here at the beginning of the turn, look what's actually happening to my bike. It wants to stand up, yes, right? So there's so much pressure here, I'm going to have to push to offset that pressure. But if my feet are level, there is no pressure there. The bike is neutral. So the bike can just start to tip in, and then I can start to create that rotation of that outside hip. As that outside hip comes around, something happens with the outside elbow. So like it starts to raise because the elbow bends as this outside knee drives forward and the outside hip comes around, the elbow starts to raise. And this is part of what it makes it look like we're pressing down a lot with our arms. When in reality, we just know from that position that we get with our arm that we're actually in the right place on the bike. We're actually far forward enough. And should I need to drive pressure down into the front tire, I would be able to. But remember, when I stand over the bottom bracket here, I'm not pressing with my hands here, but I'm getting fork loading, right? So I can create a lot of front tire loading, I can create a lot of front fork loading without creating a lot of pressure in the arms.
Yeah, what I've really learned through these lessons so far is that cornering is all about front tire traction. And so I can see how people would easily think that to get more traction on your front tire, push down with your hands. You can, it just has consequences that are not desirable. So for me, the drill that's helped me understand this the most is you just bouncing up on your bike and showing how if you drive your knees forward and you can see that front suspension compressing when you do that, and it's all done through your feet.
And we do want to stay away from weighting the arms if we can. The reason for that is my hands are really high up. So let's say I'm on a slippery gravel turn and I've got a lot of pressure up here. that's all pressure that could blow out my edge of my tire. But if my pressure's all down low here, I'm much less likely to create an unwanted washout or an unwanted skid. So really what we're doing is, you know, as we've done in other techniques, we're starting to manifest a low center of mass. So we don't have a lot of weight up high in the body. And again, if I'm pushing up here, I've got a lot of pressure and a lot of weight up through here. And I want this part of my body to be pretty relaxed, and I want my feet to be heavy. One of my favorite demos when we're teaching these classes, sometimes I teach this class with Jason, and we're actually teaching it tomorrow night, advanced cornering. And he comes through here going really fast with the off camber, and he'll take a hand off, and he'll come through the next time. And sometimes he'll even take one hand off and the other hand in the same turn, like going through here super fast. And you can really see that he's got good traction and control. Both ends of the suspension are set, and he's not pushing down with the hands. And I think this is something that it's really, you know, even for very experienced riders, it's hard to know exactly what we're doing on the bike. So this takes like a lot of time to kind of break this down. But once you start to ride from the feet, you'll really stop wanting to recruit your upper body because the outcomes are so different. So we've got Linnea set up here just to kind of demonstrate how bike body separation is best achieved. So as she's entering the turn, the bike and the body are going to lean a little bit into the turn, and from there she's simply going to bring her outside hip around and get her right hip to look through the turn. 3, 2, 1. So what we're going to see here is Linnea comes in as just as her bike's ticking in, like just as it's starting to tip in a little bit, and she's making her footwork, she's going to set her outside hip, okay? So I call this a hip set. So as we come into an off camber, we're really thinking about setting our edge because we need a lot of traction and control because the hill is trying to pull us, you know, off the trail a little bit. So we're setting that outside hip. Basically, she's going to bring that right hip around a little bit, set that hip, and the bringing of that right hip around also is helping this bike body separation occur. So let's take a look. All right, come on through. Nice.
It's cool though, because with the footwork, I don't think about where I'm going because I know the footwork will pick it up. So I've just kind of been plowing through here recklessly.
That's good.
Yeah.
Nice. You might notice that the bike body separation is noticeable, but it's not super extreme. And that's because she's getting enough bike body separation for the turn that she's in. And she's doing it from the right mechanical place in her body, which is the low body. She's using that low body rotation to set this up.
So what I really noticed when I was doing this, and then as I've been practicing quite a bit, is how light and easy it feels to let the bike lean over naturally as you're approaching the turn. So you're just letting the bike lean with its own weight versus getting into the turn, starting to set an edge, and then having to push down or to force it over. That feels really robotic and it feels muscular. Whereas if you just let it happen naturally early on, you don't even notice you're doing it.
Absolutely. You know, that's a really good point, and something else I hadn't thought about. When we set from the upper body, that is where like the fight mechanism comes from, right? That is where like this, like, oh my God, I have to do something, right? Whereas when you're rotating around on your legs, it's just this athletic sensation of moving in and creating that nice low center of mass. So I would totally agree with you there that there is that added kind of element of when I set with the upper body, it's kind of contrived. It doesn't feel like athletic, like just turning on my own feet. So one of the things to remember here is this is just another way of doing something. And to me, this is kind of the preferred way of doing it. But you can create bike body separation by pushing the bike over with the arms or by muscling with the arms. Riders do it all the time. It's not necessarily wrong, but like with everything we teach, we're talking about kind of linking one move to the next and having it feel as natural as possible and as non-physical as possible. And that's really allowing us to harvest the energy of the last moment and bring it into the next moment, rather than having all these individual moments that are very separated and kind of contrived.
And the more energy you conserve, the longer you can ride.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope you guys enjoyed the video today. Remember that we have a full online school. I know a lot of you are already there. If you're not, come join us at fluidrideonline.com. It's free for 7 days. Super chill environment. So if you have any issues at all, just email us directly. You're going to hear back from one of us. Yeah. And it's a great learning opportunity for people. We have people from all over the world joining us online. We have about 75 hours of tutorials online right now. Really great resource, ton of fun for us to make. And we really hope you'll check it out if you haven't already. We'll see you there.